Stream, and that should connect.
Yeah, that's your cheat sheet there, yeah. So you're gonna.
We are now live, so yeah, good morning. We have a little podcast, a little live stream to share with you, and we'll have entitled this one, "What the Brexit is Reform All About?" Because we're in the run-up to the 2026 election. It sounds like it's all far away, 2026 and all that, but it really is just round the corner. Because you remember exactly when the election is, Jim?
It's May 26th, the exact date. It's
so
yeah,
it might be the 6th, possibly
it's
probably the 6th of May. So it's not far away. So people are asking, what's reform all about and this kind of thing. So I'm going to go back in time a little bit, back to Brexit, and I'm going to flash up a timeline here. So just once I've got that, there we go. So that actually might be up on the screen, or it could be just fading in now. But so you've got this timeline up here, and this leads into a good bit about what reform is all about as well. Because not a lot of people know that the reason for Brexit wasn't to push money into the NHS. That was a lie. The bus and all the rest of it, we know all that. But a lot of people don't know exactly what the real reason for Brexit is. But if you look at this timeline here, I've got a heading here and it says Brexit was no failure at all. I mean, everyone goes, oh, but the economy's crashed and we've lost this money and we've lost this market and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was a failure in that respect, but that's not what Brexit was all about. If we go through this timeline here, you've got David Cameron asking the EU not to include British offshore trusts in the EU-wide crackdown, because what they were trying to do back in 2013 is they were beginning to think about trying to get the corruption and the money laundering out of European countries, and that would basically shut down the City of London. And many of us know that is the world centre for money laundering. Can't have that shut down, can we?
Nope.
So once the European Union had said no can do, we can't basically give the City of London an exemption to keep running these LLP companies or SLPs in Scotland, and no, we can't give them free rein to then let people take put money into these offshore trusts that are faceless, LLP companies, faceless, nobody knows who, it's just an accountancy that's behind them, an accountancy office.
So the EU is clamping down on offshoring, is that?
Yeah, and the reason for the offshoring is so that people can then take loans out against the funds that are in these offshore accounts. But these funds in the offshore account, these were companies, and they were invested in. But it's a limited liability setup. LLPs are a bit like limited companies in that it's limited liability.
Yeah.
Which means if that company folds, the people that invested in it don't get mud on their face. Nothing splashes back. The liability is limited. So you can then take a loan out against the funds in those companies, but the company just goes, don't worry, you'll not have to ever pay it back. So there's no repayment terms or anything like that. But the thing about loans is they don't attract interest. They don't attract tax.
Right.
So when you take your loan, you've just avoided paying all the tax, one full sweep.
Right. So it's
the City of London didn't ever want to lose that ability.
Conduit for tax-free money.
Yeah. So that was a big reason behind Brexit. And then they said, right, how can we make this fly? Get a bus, stick a line inside of it. And off it went, and there was a whole lot of other things that were all gaslighted about. And if you just scroll through the timeline here, there's a donation to UKIP. Aaron Banks is under the radar, you see. But he makes this this donation. October 2015, the Vote Leave party is formed. And in this is January 2016, things are getting real in the European Union. Stuff is getting adopted and then laid down. And then once you scroll on through, there's an awful lot of bits all coming into play here. But basically, the European Union outlawing of the ability to do corrupt stuff is withering on the vine. And this is why we have the Brexit vote, and then the Brits vote to leave the European Union, and pretty much the rest is history. So, but the cake isn't properly baked yet. There's still issues surrounding being able to do stuff that the City of London wants to do. But to do that, they need to pull out of the International Conventions on Human Rights, and the European Convention on Human Rights. So at the moment they're demonising asylum seekers. Now, these people are coming through in boats. A lot of them are well educated, and they'll tell us that there's money laundering. They'll tell us that there's people trafficking gangs behind it, when in reality you've got a cohort of people sometimes that come along. It could be lawyers, it could be professionals. They've got a wee bit of money, but they're fleeing some regime somewhere. They get into France, and they're basically buying dinghies on the second-hand market. Some of the less well off asylum seekers are going on the second-hand market, and they're buying dinghies for about 800 to 1,200 euros, and then they're coming across the channel. So there's no gangs involved. So there's another myth. And they're rocking up in our shores, hoping to find sanctuary and become asylum seekers, but they're only afforded £9 a week to live on. So a lot of them have already they've already found themselves a little niche before they go, and quite often it is in these offshore, or should I say onshore, tobacco shops, the vape shops in the seaside towns and stuff like that. People are quite happy to go into these pop-up shops and pay £4 for your pack of 20, as opposed to, what is a pack of 20 these days? Is it not closer to £20 or something? I'm not at all sure. But you can see the allure and the draw. But a lot of these people that work in these shops, that's not their destination. That's only a place where they can earn a little bit of money and just pay their way until their asylum claim goes through. 80% of these asylum claims are upheld. These people are not illegal until the asylum claim is thrown out. But what are we going to do? Are we going to let them subsidise themselves? Because according to the Convention of Human Rights, whether it's the international or the European, people have the right to seek asylum wherever their support network is. I mean, to put somebody into a place, the first place to go to, that puts extra pressure on the country that's hosting them, because those people don't have a support network. So it's down to the state to support them. But if they pass through a country or two and then go to a place where they're friends and family, the friends and family generally help them out, get them on their feet, and then get them moving again. And it's not such a burden on the state. So it makes sense for these asylum seekers to go through different countries. I mean, these pieces of legislation aren't just dreamt up on a whim. They are properly studied and well thought through and then implemented. And it's usually implemented to the greater good of the countries that are, let's face it, mopping up the mess of the colonisers all those years ago. So that's.
So
But they want to stop the boats. They want to get rid of these asylum seekers. I don't know why, because right now net migration, even in the United Kingdom, net migration is down. We need people to come in.
So my take on Farage, from the point of view of independence, is that it won't make much of a difference at all. Farage will be stronger on immigration, but in other respects it will be moving deck chairs on the Titanic. There will be no substantial difference between Reform or Labour or Conservative, and that is one of the main arguments, I think, why we need to get out now. It's interesting what you're saying here. So the deeper underlying reason for Brexit was preserving the City of London, which is probably the biggest money laundering operation in the world. When you look at it strictly from the point of independence, going right back to the days of the Union, the main argument was that Scotland was plugging itself into something bigger and more dynamic. You could mount a respectable argument for saying in those days, freed from the aggression of England and allowed to trade and so on, Scotland was actually benefiting somewhat from the Union. There was all sorts of negatives, but there were benefits in the fact that Scotland could grow and some individuals could do well out of the Industrial Revolution at the time. And it's that kind of variation of that argument which has been used ever since to justify Scotland's place in the Union. I think you're about to get a visit from your delivery man.
Whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
But
I'll let you do that. So, for the moment while Derek gets his delivery, fast forward now to 2025, and Scotland is still manacled to the ambitions of the UK. Only the UK doesn't have any ambitions anymore, other than perhaps the special relationship in foreign policy and preserving the City of London as a big financial centre. Other than that, there is nothing at all for Scotland with respect to staying in the Union, and that's the message we've got to get across at the moment. Scotland's got to get out in order to fulfil its ambitions. Okay.
Professional things and all the rest of it, so that deliveries. Yes, back again. Right. So, yeah, we were just talking a wee bit about the real reasons for Brexit, and as I was actually saying to the delivery guys who came in there,
I just finished off by saying that in 2025 we're faced with a situation where there is no reason anymore for Scotland to stay in the Union. You can't point to any ambition in the UK other than this money laundering operation in the City of London and cultivating this special relationship, with America. Other than that, it's managed decline all the way. And getting back to something we were speaking about before the podcast, the debt to GDP ratio is now 100%. Now I know that using modern monetary theory, that debt could be used in a positive way in the economy, but we know it's not the way it's used in the UK.
In fact, there's no debt at all, but we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, but it's used to be the political excuse for further austerity. So that it's forever austerity for Scotland now, and nothing anybody can point to say this is a reason for staying in the Union, or even any reason that mitigates staying in the Union. In order for Scotland to fulfil its potential now, it really needs to get out, and I think a lot of people are realising that if reform get in, essentially it's not going to change very much for Scotland.
And we can go back to the timeline thing, but with the reform is kind of the end game for it, because every person that's been put in there had their task. We can go back to Thatcher, smash the unions, pull the power away from the people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go into Tony Blair. I almost called him Tory Blair there.
Why would you do that?
I can't think of any good reason why you would ever want to do that. But then he had his reasons, which, to be honest, I've kind of forgotten. But he
was a continuation.
He implemented things like, and it was that PPI.
Yeah, PPI. Yeah.
And there was various sort of things that he put in there, and he really did pull the rug from under the unions, on a kind of ongoing basis.
Blair and Brown were more Thatcher than Thatcher, really.
Yeah, so it was actually, as you say, more Thatcher. And then, as we spoke about this timeline here, this Brexit timeline, that was kind of the next stage, and it was all about preserving the money laundering capabilities of the City of London. So they had their job, and now you've got this kind of almost a stopgap with Labour's in now, and they're just kind of smashing it up the state in the way that Labour did the last time, shrinking the state, and that comes back to the austerity, because at the moment, if you go back to the years after the Second World War, that was boom time. But it was boom time because it was spend baby spend, and they were spending. They set up the NHS, but they also spent a huge amount of money on the infrastructure that business needed to thrive. Business thrived. There was high employment. The wages were quite good as well, so people were getting a decent standard of living, and they could afford the pensions and this kind of thing. Now,
there's nothing. I mean, there's no prospect of any of that now. Real wages for middle and lower income groups haven't risen since 2007,
and it's because the money's been shoveled into the offshore accounts and paid back interest free. So there's that, and there's another. The one thing that people are missing about the immigration situation is that we need to grow the economy. We need bodies in the economy to grow the economy. But there's a great thing that people are missing, and if you go back to like the Industrial Revolution, the cotton mills and the potteries and whatnot, could you imagine if the automation that was put in was waged, and if 50% of that wage from automation was put back into the business, but the other 50% was paid to the employees that are now operating the automated machines, so that if that's replacing, say, 10 people, then those 10 people didn't get a hugely high wage, but those little wages could then be paid to the employees, and the employees would be making a killing. But then so would the companies, because they would have that 50% for investment. And then, so that was the basics of the beginning of automation. Even like tractors and fields and farms. But then along comes the electronic age and the petrol engine and all these things, and what, like, one truck driver could haul as much goods as, I don't know, 20, 30 people in a cart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is about where's the money going in the economy,
Yeah.
and it's been sucked into these offshore accounts instead. We have an opportunity to take another path, and that's what Scottish independence is all about. We have an opportunity to walk away from that. We have an opportunity to set up a society by the people, for the people, a popularly sovereign society.
Yeah. Freed from the City of London, that it's like a black hole, which is damaging the English economy. But Scotland can be free of that. It's got a fairly robust economy, with an exports surplus, free from the influence of London, Westminster and Whitehall and the City of London. Scotland can go on a completely different path economically, and that can percolate into more money available for many of the social issues we have, like 25% of children in poverty in Scotland.
Yeah, and then waging automation, it would annihilate that in a heartbeat. Again, the companies still have enough for investment, but can you imagine, as the cycle goes through, the automation came in, and you got to remember, even Microsoft Word or any word processor is automation, a spreadsheet is automation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now we're getting into the AI stage. We're going to have to learn to put our feet up, or go take up a sport.
Yeah, or use
But
AI productively.
we need to learn to do it in a way that benefits both commerce and the people.
In a way, AI is just another tool, like a search engine is a tool. It can be used to productive effect, so people can earn money through using AI, and this will be obviously an emphasis in the future. How can we use AI to become more productive? In the long run, I don't think it necessarily affects employment in a disastrous way some people feel, because people will just pivot towards earning money using the affordances of AI. But there's going to be a lot of adjustment, and again, Scotland will be ill-equipped to adjust to it, manacled to manage decline UK. So another reason why we need to make a break for it now.
Yeah, come 2026, make the first dent in the union, and vote for an independence supporting party, and it's probably better if you vote your first vote and your second vote are different, but independence supporting parties, to keep it simple.
Yes, because the party that wins a constituency will have a large percentage of votes, and therefore it won't get a concomitant amount of votes in the regional list. So if you split the two, you maximise the yes vote. And you, instead of having a Scottish Parliament full of unionists, we have a Scottish Parliament full of independents supporting MSPs. And if you, one of the other things that can happen there is if you actually have a majority, 2/3 majority, I believe, of MSPs, then you can adjourn the Parliament and have another election. That is within the power of the Scottish Parliament. So it would be another tool in their locker if people split the vote this time.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, no matter what your party political affiliation, if you split that vote, then we will have a maximum number of MSPs in the Scottish Parliament, and that can help us go towards independence.
Yeah. So, would you agree with this statement, Jim, that Scottish independence is an opportunity to hit the reset button and then build that beautiful constitution of the people, by the people, and then build a country of the people, for the people.
You're speaking to my condition now. If I can say a few words maybe about
Of course, yeah.
respect Scottish sovereignty. So respect Scottish sovereignty are looking at Scotland's democracy through the lens of the Swiss model of governance. So in Switzerland they have a decentralised direct democracy, and one of the key principles of it is subsidiarity. So in Switzerland the regional councils only look after the things which the community councils, they're called cantons in Switzerland, do not want to look after. And the national government only looks after what the regional councils don't want to look after. So it's a inversion of the system we have at the moment in the UK and in Scotland. It's bottom-up democracy rather than top-down.
Yeah.
Another key principle is the people can initiate referendums. A citizen can start a referendum, providing they've got sufficient support from other citizens. They can initiate referendums. One of the big benefits of that is it reduces the amount of bad law and bad policy, because the government presently in Scotland and the UK, they simply introduce policy with very minimum consultation sometimes and whip their MPs or MSPs into voting for it. Job done. If you're a government who knows that your citizens can overturn your legislation or amend it, then you need to do broad and deep consensus before you go ahead and enact that legislation. So it means that you cut down the amount of policy which people feel is simply inflicted on them. At the moment you can argue we have democracy once every 5 years when we go out and vote, but after that everything is pretty much what the party in power wishes to do. So if you have the principle of referendums initiated by citizens, then the people have levers which can control the government in a much more granular way than they can at the moment. So that in effect is what Respect Scottish Sovereignty is about. We're about putting forward these ideas. It's not about trying to impose a Swiss system on Scotland. It's simply taking the principles which the Swiss have enacted, which are very closely aligned with Scotland's traditional principles. Scotland, all through its history, has the principle of the sovereignty of the people, more honoured than the breach and the observance for the last 300 years. But nevertheless, it's an important thread running through our history. The Swiss have actually acted on that. You know, they call the people the sovereign as well, but they have tools in place which allow the sovereignty of the people to become a reality. We've occasionally managed to use some of these principles. To take a good, fairly recent example, fracking. The Scottish government wasn't actually able to oppose fracking directly, once it was approved by the UK. But what they did was consult and collaborate with the regional councils, and they withheld planning permission and licenses for the exploration of fracking by companies such as INEOS. So they were able to stop fracking in that way and reflect the wishes of the Scottish people, because nobody in Scotland had any appetite for fracking. Why would a country with abundant energy, as we have, expose itself to the risks of fracking with the potential earthquakes, pollution of the water table, etc. So that was an example of bottom-up democracy working, but we need more of that going forward, and that's what we're trying to bring into Scottish law now with our petition, which I see you've got up on the screen there, Can you just scroll down a little bit and you'll see there's also a QR code as well as the link
I will do that.
to
So
our
what I've got
petition.
here, I've just got the
Yeah,
website there.
super,
So that's where you can actually go and take a look at that.
If you go
I'll
to
just
that
pop
website, respectscottishsovereignty.scot, you'll find the link to the petition that we have going through the Parliament and a QR code right there. We've got over 7,000 signatures now in our petition. If that goes into Scottish law, then you have a contemporary reinforcement of the principle of the sovereignty of the people. Scots will be able to initiate referendums. Also, if I can just read out, it enshrines in Scottish law.
And just before you do that, Jim, is there a way to actually get that into Scots law just now?
Absolutely, because the ICCPR, this is what the petition is about, implementing that into Scottish law, the International Covenant in Civil and Political Rights, Article 1.
So what you're saying is by going on this website here and going up that petition, you can then put your weight behind getting that put into Scots law?
You're exercising direct democracy in order to ask for more direct democracy, because that's exactly what it's about. Let me just quickly read out Article 1 of the International Covenant in Civil and Political Rights is all peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social and cultural development. And another key commitment is Article 25, which says every citizen shall have the right and opportunity to take part in the conduct of public affairs directly or through freely chosen representatives. So both of these principles are referring to the fact that, amongst other things, the citizens can initiate referendums and they determine their own future. So it's not a bill, not a petition, advocating directly for an extension of the powers of the Scottish Parliament. It's a petition advocating for enactment of a UN covenant which extends the powers of the people. That's over the Parliament, the Scottish Parliament and the UK Parliament. It's extending the powers of the people in line with modern thinking about
this is
about
popular
democracy.
sovereignty happening now, isn't it?
It's popular sovereignty. That's exactly what it is, and it's been endorsed by the Scottish Human Rights Commission, the Scottish representative of the UN in Scotland. It's been endorsed by a number of notable lawyers, such as Ewan Kennedy. It is absolutely watertight that the Scottish Parliament can introduce this legislation, and the more people who sign the petition, the more the message gets through that they should indeed go ahead and do this. It's the Scottish Parliament's job to maximise the power of the Scottish people. Yeah, I would say that is a definition of their job, to maximise the voice and the power of their own people. And this is one way in which they can do it and start us on the ladder to a fully fledged direct democracy model of governance.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. So anything more on that you have, Jim? Or
I could say a few words about what we're up to at the moment. So we're currently trying to get as many MSPs, to give an opinion on this petition as possible, and obviously the MSPs who are on the committee for the petition, which has passed the first stage now, and we require a response from the Minister for the Constitution, Angus Robertson. So one thing I've done recently is write to one of my regional list MSPs, Faisal Chowdhury. He's a Labour MSP on the list for Lothian, and asked him what his views were. He's a member of the committee. I got back a somewhat disappointing response, which basically said, he, as a member of the as a member of the committee, specific decision of the Citizen Participation Public Petitions Committee and how members of the committee make decisions is not a matter on which I can offer additional comment, as it is a matter for the committee. Now, this simply isn't true. As a member of the committee, he can still offer his own opinion on it, so long as he makes it clear that it's not the view of the whole committee, it's his personal view. So this issue of, this was sent by one of his staffers, this issue of MSPs sending automatic replies to constituents, I think is becoming a problem. I've done some work around the Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Bill. So we had a number of people who were concerned about the abolition of juries, to write to their MSPs, and what we found was that all of the MSPs without exception were sending back automatic replies. They weren't automatic replies of their own position, they were automatic replies from party HQ. They were all the same, no matter which MSP, by party, no matter which MSP you asked for an opinion, back came the same answer. And this, I think, is unacceptable. They're busy people. It's legitimate to sometimes send automatic replies, but it's surely got to be their own view on the situation, not a copy and paste from party HQ. So Faisal has actually gone one better than that and sent an automatic reply, which is simply not true. So obviously this is a time of year when people are on holiday. I haven't had a reply from my follow-up to that, pointing out that he can give a view. It's 3 weeks now since he replied, but possibly he's on holiday. So I'm very much hoping that Faisal will offer a substantive reply to our legitimate questions on this, and so that we don't have to put this down as another symptom of the malaise of Scottish democracy. So I'm hoping that we'll get a reply from Faisal.
This seems like a massive step towards people power, sovereignty, and empowering the people to, have a good life, as opposed to just turning the people into cogs in a machine.
Yeah, and it's a way out of the logjam that I think our democracy is in, because the only way now really that things get amended or corrected is if people take to the streets and have to get very angry, and the politics becomes very confrontational. We're seeing a lot of polarisation in politics these days. If the people have the levers to actually initiate law and policy and correct bad law and policy, then the governments of the day have to take a more responsible position. So everything, the voltage is lowered. You get more consensus and more good decision making in government. So this isn't. Some people get a bit twitchy when you talk about the power of the people and the sovereignty, and they start to maybe form visions, of anarchy and things like that. This is the opposite. This is bringing the people into the decision-making process in a meaningful way. Switzerland isn't a utopia by any means, and we're not advocating transferring that system directly over to Scotland. But what we're saying is that it's good democracy, and the principles of good democracy will solve the current problems of democracy. What we need, as Dennis Pillon says, is to solve the problems of democracy, you need more democracy, because in a lot of ways our democracy has become hollowed out, and it's become that one decision every 5 years, and it's just not enough now to ensure good governance.
Yeah, I would really like to, if anyone wants to come back and retort or anything like that, prove to me that this United Kingdom isn't actually an oligarchy masquerading as a democracy.
I think it very much is, and you just need to feel what's going on in your life. Most of what's happening to the country feels as if it's being done to you, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It doesn't feel like you're actually involved in making it happen.
So these are forms of governance we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And just to unpack that a little bit, forms of government, you can have mixes of government as well, or governance. Popularly sovereign governance is my preferred governance, and that is where whether it's a monarch or a president, they must ask the permission of the people to do their bidding on their behalf. So that's one form of governance, and that also you can also put in mechanisms by which or where the people can keep an eye on how that governance is being administered, and if it's not being administered in accordance with the mandate given,
Mm.
those people that are given that task can be gotten rid of very quickly indeed. So that's one form of governance. A monarchy is another form of governance, which we are led to believe that the United Kingdom is governed by now, or certainly as a figurehead. And then we're led to believe that our governance at the moment is a democracy. But I would suggest that an oligarchy is what we're under. An
Yeah.
oligarchy is where the people with money have the power, and they run various councils. So if you look at the Russian Federation, for instance, the top oligarch is Vladimir Putin, but underneath him there are various other oligarchs that run other sections of the Russian Federation.
Mm. Yeah, I think the UK system, I think people are increasingly feeling it, it's a democracy in name and by rhetoric, but not in practice.
Not in practice.
And what we're advocating for is a way to bring in the levers of modern effective democracy. So I'd urge people to check it all out. It's on our website, respectscottishsovereignty.scot, and please sign a petition to encourage our petitions committee in the Scottish Parliament to implement this international covenant of civil and political rights into Scottish law and set us on the road to implementing a modern system of democracy in Scotland.
Under Article 19 of the fictitious Treaty of Union that governs this whole state, the Scots have the right to choose the democracy or the governance that they...
Yeah, and the claim of
See.
right has been reiterated multiple times since then, and I think the most recent one was...
Well, 1989 it was ratified.
And that was in the Westminster Parliament.
2018, yeah.
In 2018 in the Scottish Parliament, the people of Scotland have the right to freely determine their form of government, best suited to their needs, more honoured in the breach than in the observance, and that's what we need to change. We need to actually put it into practice.
Yeah, so more of that stuff. So I've got another couple of websites up here. Should we move on and you want to say a wee bit about it?
That's good,
So
yeah.
I'll flash up the next website that's well worth.
So this is a petition website. So a quick way to get there is just to go to our website, respectscottishsovereignty.scot, and then the front page you'll get a link to this petition website, but it's pretty easy to find in Google. If you type in PE 2135, I think the link to the petition is the second link that comes up. There's a link to a discussion of the petition, but the second link actually takes you to the petition. So that's open. All you need to do is put in your name, your email, and your postcode. You will then get a email almost immediately back. Check in your junk folder if you don't see it, and you will have to click on a confirmation link. When you click on that, then your signature will be registered on the website.
There you go. So again, there's the URL for that particular website.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
I'll just make sure that is definitely happening.
I think this is something, no matter what your party affiliation, I mean, respect Scottish sovereignty. Doesn't make any secret of the fact that we think independence is the best future for Scotland. But even if you're not on that side of the debate, direct democracy can make a huge difference for the good in Scotland. So I would urge you to consider signing the petition regardless of what side on the constitutional question you are.
Yeah, that just gives you what Jim was saying to people. If you just Google this here, and you can see that probably quite clearly, PE 2135.
Yep, have a look at it, and there's a good overview of the petition on the website. If you agree with that, please go ahead and sign it, and that can be done in less than a minute. The sign up is less than a minute.
And that, I believe, is the legislation right there.
Yes, that's International Covenant Civil and Political Rights.
So this, under European law and Scots and the laws or treaty that governs the Scottish Parliament, which is the you can help me out with this, I'm sure.
Sorry?
It's just escaped me for a second. There's the legislation that controls the Scottish Parliament.
Oh yeah, the Scotland Act.
Scotland Act, that's what I'm looking for. So under the Scotland
that's
Act,
well mentioned, because the Scotland Act specifically states that the Scottish Parliament can implement international law. It doesn't require the permission of the UK government for the Scottish Parliament to implement this kind of treaty. And the Scottish Human Rights Commission has recently confirmed that and very much want to see this implemented. So there are no impediments to the Scottish Parliament going ahead and doing this. It's not an extension of the devolved settlement, it's an extension of the power of the people of Scotland.
So John Swinney, why haven't you done this already?
We'd love them to implement it before May 26, and it's just about possible for them to do so. The more signatures we get on the petition, the stronger the case for putting this petition to the top of the list and expediting it.
So there you go, folks. ICCPR. Google it, sign the petition, get your weight behind it. And then the next website we have to a quick discussion of is Believe in Scotland. And they have this article up that Jim's going to say a few words about. And it's, Farage will burn down the Union, or will he? What's the story?
Yeah, so I saw another article in Believe in Scotland in which they were looking at polling in Scotland, Wales and in Ireland as a whole. And there's definitely an ever-increasing trend showing that support for independence in Scotland, as we know, has always been high since 2014. But it's possibly now, if you aggregate a number of polls together, it's running at over 54%. Wales also, support for independence in Wales is climbing. Now I don't know if it's over 50% yet, but it's rising ever higher, and there's more and more support in Northern Ireland also for unification of Ireland. So we're getting to a stage now where I think, as mentioned earlier, people are thinking, in what way do we benefit from remaining part of the UK?
Yeah.
In what way does England benefit really from this system anymore? You can make a very strong argument, I think, for England benefiting greatly from saying amicably, we're friends now, yeah, but we're you go it alone now, guys. If we had a system like that, then a lot of the the ways in which Westminster and Whitehall lean upon Scotland, particularly for resources, that crutch would be taken away. That would not be a bad thing long term for England. It would allow England to address a lot of the problems which it's avoided addressing because of that reliance on Scottish energy, and propping up their balance of payments and so on. So the point here was, I believe in Scotland they're asking, with Reform riding high in the polls, if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, that process of political divergence will reach a point where quite possibly you will get very high support in Scotland, Wales and Ireland for breakaway.
I even could even say that there's a really good case for the people of England to actually take a bit of sovereignty for themselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
And no longer be subject to the king. And I would suggest that they need their independence too, but from what? And I would suggest that as the City of London.
Yeah. The City of London.
They could cut ties so that the City of London could then be like a principality that just sits in the middle of. They don't have to get rid of it completely, but they cut the ties, and the people could walk away from that tyranny that comes from but I mean, going back to the taking loans from offshore companies and things like that, and then just letting them go bust. That's no good for the people.
No, the City of London is a millstone around the neck of the English people too, and I think that the breakup would refocus England, particularly the north of England gets almost as bad a deal as Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. If they could take back control, then they can reinvigorate industry in England as well. At the moment, everything is deprioritised in order to benefit the financial centre of London, keeping London as one of the big financial centres of the world, and as we've discussed, a major global money laundering operation. That is now having a hugely detrimental effect on England too. So this kind of reset, pressing the reset on our democracy would hugely benefit England. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So there you go. Hope you're having a lovely Sunday. And if you'd like to hear a bit more of this, then give us indications, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, if you've got anything you'd like us to talk about, we'd be interested in getting your feedback in terms of other subjects that we could cover in future podcasts.
Yeah, so give us a clue as to what the next topic could be, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. So if you're having your roast or you're having your haggis, neeps and tatties, I don't know what you're having, but enjoy whatever you're having.
Have a good one. Yeah.
We've enjoyed having you. Bye just now.
See you in the next one.